Welcome to the Mariners post-game show on King 5 Plus. T-Mobile Park was the place to be tonight for Game 4 of the American League Championship Series, and certainly the place to be if you were a Blue Jays fan, because the Blue Jays took out the Mariners tonight, 8-2 the final. It did not go well for Luis Castillo, who got the start for the Mariners. He went 2 1/3 innings and then just ran into trouble, and they get right to the bullpen, and that's where the Blue Jays continued to pound Mariners pitching. Man, 2 straight nights where they have just put it to them. 21 runs for the Blue Jays in these last 2 games at T-Mobile Park. Max Scherzer gets the start for the Blue Jays. The guy's 41 years old, and he just relies on his experience and his craftiness, and he got the job done tonight. He got a huge ovation at T-Mobile Park, as you can imagine, because the Blue Jays fans fill that place, and they're awfully noisy when their team's out front, and they were out front all of this game tonight, or most of it, I should say. So this was Max Scherzer that went 5 2/3 innings. He gave up just 3 hits and 2 runs. And then they got to the Jays bullpen, and they took care of business. So the Mariners really struggled in this game. Just 5 hits and just the 2 runs tonight at T-Mobile Park. And Josh Naylor, really the only shining moment on that lineup of the Mariners. He had 3 hits in this game. And Mariners had a couple of chances, but really just a tough night all around for the Seattle Mariners, as Luis Castillo got the start and didn't go well for him at all. So, you look at the fact that you just look right ahead to Game 5, because that's what the Mariners have to do at this point. Look at Game 5 tomorrow. It's going to be their final home game of this series before they move to Toronto for the last 2, if necessary. So now it's a 3-game series. Mariners went up 2-0. Now it's 2-2. Blue Jays, by the way, unbeaten at T-Mobile Park this season. They swept the Mariners back in May and outscored them 21-7 in that series. They're 2-0 now in this ALCS, scoring 21 runs again. So they're very much at home at T-Mobile Park. And Vlad Guerrero Jr. said last night, after he had 4 hits, including 2 doubles and a home run, he loves to hit at T-Mobile Park. He loves playing in Seattle, and there's probably various factors for that, but he's had a lot of success here. And tonight, he had another home run at T-Mobile Park. So Blue Jays doing everything right. They had the pitching, they had the hitting, and the Mariners are in a bit of a slide. So we'll see what happens here as this series goes on. Let's bring in Jim Nelson in the King 5 studios. Jim, I know that you're a big sports fan, and you were watching this thing tonight, and I mean, well, give me your take on it.
Well, I was there for the first few innings, Paul, and look, I mean, it's amazing. Despite how things went yesterday, the fans still brought the energy today. I don't think there was going to be any question about that. Obviously, we're talking about the ALCS, but it did not take long for some of that energy to be sucked right out of the building. Despite that quick start, despite the home run early, despite Castillo getting through the first inning pretty much flawlessly. But boy, once the Blue Jays turned up the offensive firepower, the energy really kind of slipped out of T-Mobile Park. I'm kind of looking outside our window. For those not familiar, our studio is directly across from home plate. And look, there are a lot of fans out there right now. Some of them, they're still smiling. They're excited to be here, had a good time. But the vast majority of them looked pretty dejected. And it was about the 8th inning where there was the mass exodus. People were trickling out for the better part of the night. I shouldn't say the better part of the night, the latter part of the night. But by the 8th inning, man, when that score pushed to 8-2, it looked like the end of the game type of crowd leaving home plate, filling the crosswalks. They were out there shutting the streets down, and not in a good way. So, yeah, you touched on it, Paul. You got to flip the script. You got to rebound. You got another game tomorrow. And I think, one of the things, just too many little things. You walk in a run, trouble on the base paths, a couple of outs on the bases. Rivas picked off at first, Naylor thrown out at third during what could have been a rally late in the game. So I know you guys will be breaking this down, but a lot of little things that added up in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Naylor, it was a good play at third base to get him, but he did have the home run. He did have 3 hits. He was the star of the game for the Mariners for sure. But the M's went into this series they had their relievers were 18 straight scoreless innings and really looking good in this Toronto series. Then all of a sudden it went south on them tonight. They had 5 relievers used in this game as Dan Wilson was going through the arms pretty quick, and that bullpen gave up 5 runs total. So just not a good night for the Mariners all the way around. And again, it's a best-of-3 series now. But the thing that really gets me is there's been like 3 clunkers for these teams. I mean, the Blue Jays got pounded 10-3 in Game 2 in Toronto, and now the Jays are returning the favor and pounding the Mariners on their home turf. So, Dan Wilson, they put the losing manager out there first. I'm sure he wants to make a few comments and get on out of there and flip the script, turn the page, and get ready for Game 5. Here's Dan after the game.
Start with Ryan and Daniel. Ryan, go ahead.
Hey, Dan, what did you see from Luis that made you want to go pull him quick and kind of walk us through the thinking behind all the moves there?
Yeah, I think, we talked about it beforehand that we had the ability tonight to be aggressive with the bullpen and in that situation, with Gabe was ready to go and it was a good matchup for us and we felt like that was a time to go and I think it's, you make tough decisions and that was a tough one for sure. I think Gabe did a good job. He walked Varsho, but then able to get the next 2 guys.
What were you seeing from Luis, though, that made you feel like, okay, this isn't working?
Well, I mean, again, we knew ahead of time that we could be, aggressive tonight, and I think in that situation they struck quickly last night, and so tonight we had a chance to send Gabe out there, and we did.
Daniel.
With Gabe, I think he was at 26 pitches or so when he faced Springer. Was there any inclination to going and getting him with Brash warming at that point?
Yeah, I mean, again, you make decisions and you got to live with them, and still thought he was throwing the ball well, but Springer able to get him.
Second row on your far left, Dan.
Dan, did the way the 3rd inning went yesterday for George impact or inform the decision-making process for Luis today?
I mean, we know about this offense, and they can, they struck quickly, and again, it just felt like it was a situation where we knew we could be aggressive, and tonight was, an opportunity to do that with Gabe there, and we went with it.
First row on the end, Adam.
Yeah, and at this stage of the season, you guys know who you are pitching-wise. You're going to attack. You're going to get after it in the zone. At the same time, they want to be aggressive in the zone too. At this stage in the series, what kind of adjustments can you make pitching-wise in that regard? I think our guys, have thrown the ball well all season long and have done that. And, this is, 2 good teams going at it. That's what this, the championship series is all about. And we will make our adjustments and continue to do that and continue to do the things that we do that make us successful as well.
Dan, there were a couple base running errors. There was a wild pitch that scored a run. There was a walk that scored a run. Toronto outplayed you today, but what can you say about just those little things adding up today?
Yeah, I mean, little things. That is what happens in this time of year, and they can make a big difference. And we've talked about that a lot. And tonight seemed like that there were a couple situations that hurt us that way.
Right up front, Dan.
Kind of on that note of the little things adding up, it seemed like Scherzer today, the fastball was working right away, but the off-speed stuff took a while to get there. Was there a feeling like there was an opening early on to get to him that maybe just didn't happen for you guys today?
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about Scherzer and his ability as a veteran to kind of step up, and I think he made some good pitches tonight when he had to. I thought he mixed up his arsenal pretty well. He had a good fastball and then was able to use his changeup, his curve, and his slider as well. I thought he had a pretty good mix with it tonight and kept us off stride.
Third row on your left, Tyler.
Dan, with using some of your relievers tonight, and when or how can you activate the Brian Wu component of this? Because they haven't seen him yet, and is he someone you're eager to get in there tomorrow? Could he be a factor tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did use bullpen guys tonight, but they were very well rested again, so I think that we're still in good shape in terms of our bullpen, and also we have Brian down there as well, and we'll utilize him when the time is right.
Also, with Naylor running there in the 6th inning, take me through that play. What was that the right play to go there, to go to third, or what?
I mean, I think we tend to be aggressive, and sometimes when we're aggressive, it can backfire.
On the second row, you're right, Buster.
Dan, when you went to the mound, you talked to Castillo before making the move. What did you tell him?
Just that, we were going to go to Gabe in that situation. It was tough. Again, it's a tough decision, and it was not an easy one, and not an easy one to tell him. But that's what we went with, and just an opportunity to let him know.
Up front, you're right, Ryan.
Dan, you had 5 walks on Scherzer. I mean, what did you see in the approaches otherwise, though? It looked like sometimes you guys got a little over-aggressive on him on some pitches out of the zone.
Yeah. I think, again, we talked about it. I think he made some pitches when he had to in some key situations. We were able to get some traffic going, but nothing that we were able to, drive that guy in. He, again, made a couple, got us out. He got himself out of a couple situations, and that was the story for tonight.
Third row on your left, Mike.
Dan, just, when you zoom out from this game, even offensively, there's a number of players who are slumping at this point. I was wondering, do you feel like some guys are pressing the situation, or how would you kind of explain some of the issues offensively?
I think, again, we had opportunities, just weren't able to cash in tonight. And I think that, this is a team, we've talked about, bouncing back, that, the series tied up now at this point, and this is an opportunity really for us to bounce back and get back on it. And tomorrow we come out and do that.
The 2 last ones, Dan, standing on your left.
Dan, how you describe the psyche of your team right now?
Obviously, we wanted to get a couple series, or a couple of wins here in the series at home. We haven't been able to do that, but again, tomorrow we have a chance to bounce back, and that's where our focus is going forward.
We'll finish with Tyler in the third row, Dan.
How do you get back to playing your kind of game? I mean, you're not used to teams coming in here and doing what they've done to your pitching staff. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think, again, doing the things that we do offensively, grinding out our at-bats, getting guys on base and getting them in and driving the ball in the gaps. That's what we do. And on the mound, we attack the zone, and we just need to continue to get back to that. And that's what we do well. And we'll get back to that tomorrow and bounce back from the series.
All right, Dan, thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Appreciate it.
And that's all really Dan Wilson can say at this point. Get back to what they do best. Show some resiliency that they've been doing throughout the season, especially when they have a bad game. They bounce back and they get after it. But, you hear Dan talk about the wild pitch and the walk and run, and the fact that they had 5 walks among this pitching staff tonight. And then when you look offensively, this Mariners team just didn't have any firepower tonight. And didn't even have a pop gun out there. I mean, Josh Naylor had 3 of their 5 hits. Only 2 other players had hits in this game, Dom Canzone and Gino Suarez. So you're looking at 3 guys who produced tonight at the plate, and that's just not enough in ALCS baseball to have any kind of success. So it's kind of odd to see this Mariners team kind of come up snake eyes tonight. Really, the first 2 games of these games at T-Mobile Park. So they got to get it going, and they've gotten out on the right foot. But it just hasn't happened for them in these last 2 games at home. So the series is even at 2-2. Jim Nelson, I know we're going to be hearing from the Mariners players. I know John Schneider, the Toronto Blue Jays manager, is going to come out there. But, you were at the ballpark. Mm-hmm. The Jays fans like to think they take over. The Mariners fans say, oh, no, we're outnumbering you guys. Give me a little feel for what it was like at the ballpark tonight.
Well, the longer this one went on, the more it felt like there was a bigger Toronto presence, or more of a presence of Blue Jays fans. I've covered some of these games throughout the course of the season. Obviously, you referenced the 3-game series earlier this year, and that was kind of the traditional takeover that we tend to see. That's something, of course, that Blue Jays fans can plan for. They can get their tickets months in advance. That was something we talked about coming into this series, the fact that they wouldn't have so much of a runway to plan their visit. However, even as I glance out our window, I see a handful of Blue Jays jerseys, and you could hear them inside the stadium, especially behind that third base dugout, which is the visiting team dugout. And we saw it when Scherzer came out. And I do think a lot of Seattle fans acknowledge the performance of Scherzer. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer who was able to really keep his team in a great position today. But that Blue Jays crowd, that contingent right there, really supports their team, travels with them, and we could hear them there today. And hey, There's one more left here in Seattle, and you got to believe, you heard Dan Wilson mention it, you got to believe the Mariners feel like they got to win that one. Big difference between going back to Toronto up 3-2 versus down 3-2.
Yeah, there's a lot of media outlets booking tickets right now to get to Toronto and get this get ready for Game 6 in Toronto. Again, the series is even at 2-2. Only 3 Mariners players had hits tonight. Josh Naylor had 3. J.P. Crawford, one of the Mariners, who went 0 for 3 in this game. Here he is after the game.
What did you see from Max tonight? I mean, he's a future Hall of Famer. What were you guys seeing from him?
Vintage Max. He had all of his pitches working and, had us fooled.
I know this isn't where you want to be, but then again, it's still 2-2. What's the mindset as you leave here tonight?
You got to win them all. Simple as that.
Is there a feeling of lost opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't come out on top, so yeah, I mean, it's a failed mission.
Short and sweet from J.P. Crawford tonight. But I will say this, if you listen to Crawford and you listen to Dan Wilson, and there's a lot of respect for Max Scherzer and the job he did as a 41-year-old pitcher who's headed to the Hall of Fame one day. Again, 5 2/3 innings. He gave up just 3 hits and 2 runs. But as Dan mentioned in his press conference, the fact that Scherzer had all of his pitches working, had a lot of variety, made it very tough on the Mariners hitters. He didn't have a guy out there on the mound just throwing heat so the Mariners could tee off on him. So, maybe the Blue Jays pitching staff learned a lot about the Mariners after they didn't get much done against the M's lineup in the first 2 games of this ALCS. John Schneider, the manager of the Blue Jays, is a guy who got on the plane when the Blue Jays were down 2-0 and they took off for Seattle, and he looked at his players and he was looking for a vibe. He got on that plane, he wanted to see what kind of vibe the players were giving off after losing the first 2 games of this series. And he was very positive. He said, you know what? I looked in their eyes, and I saw the vibe I wanted to see. They weren't down. They were ready to take care of business. They flew out to Seattle, and so far they have taken care of business, even this series back up at 2-2. John Schneider, after the game, here he is.
Hey, John, how would you describe what we saw from Max tonight?
Really good. Dude's 41. And, I said it before, it's easy to say before the game. He lives for this, and you have to respect that and you have to appreciate that. So I thought he actually got better as the game went on, to be honest with you. And the change up to Naylor, he had really good stuff. And I think it was just almost too hard of a changeup. But after that, man, breaking ball, curveball, slider, good, changeup, good, held his velo. That's why he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Can you walk us through that very brave first walk you made to the mound and what was
Sure,
said?
yeah. I've been waiting for that all year, for Max to yell at me on the mound. And I think at that point, there's numbers, there's projections, there's strategy, and there's people. So I was trusting people, and I think in that moment you kind of relive every conversation I've had with him over the course of the year, and trusted him to make pitches. I was joking with him. I've been waiting for that moment since our Zoom call in the offseason before we signed him. Loved it. There's a little more of that in between to send him back out for the 6th too. Talking about how we don't talk to him when he's starting. I definitely talked to him, and that was another fun conversation in the tunnel. So. He was awesome, man, and when a guy is in it, when a guy is in the arena performing and doing well, I'm going to trust him to continue to do it.
We'll stay there with Mike.
Given that it was your first experience with the Mad Max that we've been hearing about for so long, was it what you expected?
Yeah, it was awesome. I thought he was going to kill me. It was great. He locked eyes with me, both colors as I walked out, and it's not fake. That's the thing. It's not fake. He has this Mad Max persona, but he backed it up tonight. So it was, the infielders had a good laugh too out there, and he got the job done.
It looked like he said to you.
You know, we listened to John Schneider, and he's comfortable and confident now with his team evening things up at 2-2. When you go into Game 5 tomorrow, Dan Wilson made some changes going into today's action before the game. He said, look, Bryce Miller is going to be my starter in Game 5. Brian Wu, they're hoping to pull him out of the pen at some point and get some work out of him. But, you know, Dan's been very coy about how he's going to use Brian Wu. You can hear it in his earlier talks about Wu, and he keeps getting peppered with questions about him, and he keeps deflecting. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with Wu tomorrow. But, you know, in the meantime, Bryce Miller's going to get the ball tomorrow night. Let's look ahead to tomorrow night's Game 5 at T-Mobile Park. Dan Wilson hands the ball to Miller. He's given up 2 runs in 2 starts, and Miller beat the Jays in Game 1. 1 run over 6 innings of work.
Yeah, I think the last 2 weeks, everything's felt really good. Body, elbow, yeah, everything's felt really good the last couple weeks. And then plus, you know, you factor in playoffs. Last 2 games have been on the road, so get a little extra adrenaline. But yeah, it helps a lot when body's feeling good. And so yeah, I'm happy with where the elbow and my body feels right now.
Bryce, with your start, you had a chance to see just by doing it what was effective against this Blue Jays lineup, and you've also had a couple games now to see what else is effective and what hasn't worked. How can that, you know, just kind of different levels of performances kind of help you for your next start here tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a little different, you know, throwing to the same team in 5 days, and the only time I've done that is in the minor leagues with the new minor league schedule. But yeah, I mean, you know, they were swinging it really well against the Yankees, and we slowed them down. And then, you know, yesterday they were swinging it really good. So I don't know. I don't want to say too much on game plan or anything, but I just gotta, you know, study how I threw the other day and you know what works and what doesn't work, and go out and attack.
And Bryce was pretty impressive in that last start. Kevin Gossman is going to go for the Blue Jays. He pitched against the Mariners in Game 1. So he took the loss in that one, as we know. Here's Cal Raleigh after the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, ran ourselves off the bases a few times, so that one hurt a little bit. But, yeah, just couldn't take advantage tonight. They got some hits. You know, give them credit there. Left a few balls in the middle part of the plate, and they took advantage of. So, yeah.
With that said, it's 2-2 series right now. Just the thoughts of the clubhouse as you leave here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, we knew it wasn't going to be easy, so it's just about, you know, keeping a level head, understanding, you know, don't get too high, don't get too low, and understand now it's a best of 3. So, you know, go out tomorrow, forget it, flush it, and come back ready to go.
Confidence in Bryce getting named the starter tomorrow. Just thoughts on what you've been seeing from him in the playoffs so far.
Yeah, we have confidence in all our guys. So Bryce obviously threw great in the first game, so have to you know, come up with a good game plan tomorrow and try to, you know, keep them at bay and get a few runs on the board.
So it will be a rematch of Game 1 coming up in Game 5 tomorrow night at T-Mobile Park. Bryce Miller on the hill for the Mariners, Kevin Gossman on the hill for the Toronto Blue Jays. And again, the Mariners won that matchup 3-1 in Game 1 of this series. Again, tonight's, you know, what can you say? Josh Naylor, 3 of the Mariners' 5 hits. He had a home run. He's pretty much all the offense they had in this game. Unusual to see Julio and Cal go over, but that's what happened tonight. I should say this, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Andres Jimenez are the 8th and 9th hitters in the Blue Jays order. They had 4 hits. Jimenez had 7 home runs all season long. In this series, the guy has had 2. So they're getting some contributions from places they're not used to getting them either. So that's going to do it for us here on King 5 Plus. Thank you for joining us on the Mariners postgame show. We'll see you tomorrow for Game 5.